If patience made you colder, angrier, or quietly resentful toward Allah, then what you are practicing is not patience. And if hardship exposed habits you refuse to give up, conversations you know are wrong, or compromises you keep justifying, then the problem is not the test, it is the resistance. Most people think patience means staying silent while life hurts. They think it means swallowing pain, forcing a smile, and pretending they are fine while something inside them slowly decays. That is not patience. That is emotional avoidance dressed up as faith. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that patience is at the first strike of calamity, as reported in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. That moment matters. The first reaction, the first thought, the first excuse your mind reaches for. Today, calamity rarely arrives dramatically. It arrives through a phone screen, a message you were not expecting, a rejection email, a sudden expense, a comparison that hits your chest when you scroll and see someone your age doing better, earning more, married sooner, happier publicly. And in that first moment, something reveals itself. Not your strength, your attachments. Some people immediately reach for their phone to distract themselves. Endless scrolling, music, content, noise. Others reach for gossip, complaining about colleagues, swearing casually, venting in ways that feel relieving but leave the heart heavier. Some start bending boundaries, justifying cross-gender closeness because it feels comforting. Some delay prayer, rush dua, or stop making dua altogether because it feels pointless. And then they call what follows patience. That is not patience. That is spiritual numbing. Patience is emotional discipline. It is feeling pain fully without allowing pain to rewrite your beliefs about Allah. It is refusing to let hardship turn into entitlement. It is choosing obedience even when motivation disappears. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, described the affair of the believer as astonishing. When good comes, they are grateful. When hardship comes, they are patient, as reported in Sahih Muslim. Not numb, not bitter, not detached, patient. Ask yourself honestly, has hardship made you quieter with Allah or closer? Has it made you more careful with your tongue or more careless? Has it made you more selective with what you consume or more desperate for distraction? Some people say hardship made them stronger, but their prayer is weaker. Some say they are patient, but their language is harsher. Some say they trust Allah, but they panic over every outcome. That contradiction matters. Patience is not passive, it requires adjustment. If hardship exposes habits that contradict obedience, patience demands change, not tolerance. Now comes the part many people avoid. Sometimes hardship remains because the lesson is being resisted. People ask why relief is delayed. They say they have been patient for years. But patience is not time spent suffering. It is alignment. And alignment requires honesty. If Allah removed the hardship tomorrow, would you still abandon the distractions that grew during it? Would you still clean up your language? Would you still lower your gaze? Would you still choose prayer when no one is watching? Or would you return immediately to what caused distance in the first place? This is uncomfortable because it shifts responsibility inward. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that Allah is gentle and loves gentleness in all matters, as reported in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. Gentleness includes the way Allah corrects. Not everything is broken loudly. Some things are corrected slowly, through pressure rather than collapse. Hardship often exposes false identities. The version of yourself that existed during ease may not survive pressure, and that loss feels frightening. But sometimes Allah removes who you were so you can become someone more honest. Many people confuse exhaustion with righteousness. They think feeling tired means they are doing something right, but exhaustion can also come from resistance, from carrying contradictions too long, from asking Allah for relief while refusing change. This does not mean every hardship is caused by sin. That thinking is simplistic and dangerous. But some hardships remain because they are invitations, not punishments. Invitations to drop what no longer fits. Now consider this carefully. If your hardship disappeared tomorrow, what part of your life would become unnecessary? The late night scrolling, the emotional dependence on attention, the excuses for language you know you should not use, the comfort in blending in rather than standing firm. Sometimes hardship stays because it is the only thing keeping you awake. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that relief comes with distress and ease comes with hardship, as reported in Sahih Muslim. But ease does not always arrive in the form you demand. Sometimes ease arrives as clarity, sometimes as detachment, sometimes as the courage to walk away from what weakens you. Modern life trains people to avoid discomfort at all costs. Islam trains people to extract meaning from it. Patience is not waiting for pain to end. It is choosing who you become while it continues. If you are listening to this and feel exposed, that is not accidental. That is awareness. And awareness is the beginning of change. In the next episode, we confront a question most people avoid entirely: why Allah sometimes replaces what you lose with something completely different, and why clinging to what was can delay what is coming. Do not leave the series here. This is where most people stop, and this is why they stay stuck. If Allah answered every dua you made immediately, you would not become more grateful. You would become careless. And if unanswered dua made you stop asking altogether, then what you were practicing was not trust. It was a transaction. Most people talk about dua as if it is a vending machine. Insert prayer, wait briefly, expect outcome. And when nothing changes, frustration replaces humility. Doubt replaces hope. Some people stop making dua quietly. Others keep making it, but without expectation, without presence, without belief. They still raise their hands, but their heart is already preparing disappointment. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that dua is worship, as reported in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. That statement changes everything. Dua is not a tool to get what you want. It is an act of submission, a declaration of dependence, a reminder of who is in control. Ask yourself honestly, when dua goes unanswered, what changes first? Your patience, your tone, or your assumptions about Allah? Some people begin to think Allah is ignoring them. Others think they are unworthy. Some conclude that dua only works for better people. And some stop asking entirely, convincing themselves that acceptance means silence. That is not acceptance. That is withdrawal. In the modern world, people are conditioned for immediacy. Messages are replied to instantly. Content refreshes endlessly. Delays feel personal. So when dua does not receive an immediate response, the mind reacts the same way it does to being ignored online. It assumes rejection, but Allah does not operate on urgency. He operates on wisdom. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that a servant will continue to be answered so long as they do not become impatient and say, I made dua, but it was not answered, as reported in Sahih Muslim. Notice the danger is not the delay. The danger is the conclusion you reach because of it. Unanswered dua exposes expectations you may not have realized you were carrying. Some people want outcomes without transformation. They want relief without reflection. They want ease without change. Dua becomes a request to preserve the same life, the same habits, the same compromises, just with less pain. And when that does not happen, resentment grows. Sometimes dua is delayed because what you are asking for would solidify a version of you that needs to be outgrown. Think carefully. If Allah gave you exactly what you asked for 2 years ago, would you be closer to Him today, or further distracted? If that relationship had worked, if that job had come sooner, if that door had opened immediately, would your prayer be stronger now or weaker? Delay is not absence. It is protection you cannot yet see. Some people say they trust Allah, but their emotional reaction to delay tells a different story. They complain more. They compare constantly. They become sharper in speech, looser in boundaries, more careless with what they consume. And slowly, dua turns into a habit rather than a conversation. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught that Allah is shy and generous, and He does not turn away the hands of His servant empty, as reported in Sahih Tirmidhi. Empty does not always mean you received what you asked for. Sometimes it means you received what you needed instead. Dua changes you before it changes circumstances. It humbles, it reveals, it strips entitlement, and it forces you to confront whether you want Allah's wisdom or only your own outcomes. Some dua are answered immediately, some are delayed, some are redirected, and some are stored for a time you will only understand later. But none are ignored. If unanswered, dua made you harsher, more impatient, or less trusting. That is not proof of Allah's distance. It is proof that something in your understanding needs correction. In the next episode, we confront one of the hardest realities to accept: why Allah sometimes removes people, opportunities, and versions of life you loved, and why replacement does not always look like what you lost. Do not stop here. This is where clarity begins, not where it ends. If Allah took something from your life and you are still angry about it years later, then you were not attached to the blessing. You were attached to control. And if the loss made you colder, more cynical, or quietly resentful toward Allah, then this is the conversation you have been avoiding. Most people think loss means Allah took something away because they failed. But often, what hurts the most is not the loss itself. It is the identity tied to it, the version of yourself that existed when that person was there, when that opportunity felt certain, when that future felt predictable. When Allah removes something, He is rarely just removing the thing. He is removing the version of you that depended on it. That is why loss feels disorienting. You are not just grieving what left. You are grieving who you were allowed to be when it existed. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that Allah does not take something away from a believer except that He replaces it with something better, as reported in Sahih Muslim. But most people misunderstand this completely. Better does not mean similar, better does not mean familiar, and better does not mean immediate. Replacement often arrives disguised as discomfort. People want replacement to look like an upgrade. Same happiness, less pain. Same attachment, better outcome. But Allah does not replace attachments. He replaces dependencies. Think about the things you miss the most. Was it the person, or how they made you feel about yourself? Was it the job, or the sense of importance it gave you? Was it the opportunity, or the certainty it provided? Loss exposes what you were leaning on. Some people lose someone and lose discipline with prayer. Others lose stability and loosen their boundaries. Some begin speaking more harshly. Others begin compromising more easily, justifying relationships, habits, or environments they know are weakening them. And then they ask why replacement has not come. Replacement does not arrive while you are still clinging emotionally to what was removed. Modern culture teaches people to immediately replace loss with distraction. New content, new attention, new validation. But distraction delays healing. It numbs the pain while strengthening the attachment underneath. Islam does not rush replacement. It restructures the heart first. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that richness is not having many possessions, but richness is contentment of the soul, as reported in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. Contentment does not mean you stop caring. It means what you care about no longer controls you. Some people say they want what they lost back. But if Allah returned it exactly as it was, would it improve your faith or test it again in the same way? Loss often removes illusions. Illusions of permanence, illusions of control. Illusions that something other than Allah was holding your life together. And when those illusions collapse, people feel exposed. This is where many people make a critical mistake. They assume replacement is something external, a new person, a new role, a new opportunity. But often the first replacement Allah gives is internal: clarity, independence, emotional strength, boundaries, discernment. These are not exciting replacements. They are quiet. And because they are quiet, many people overlook them. If you are honest, some losses protected you from becoming someone you would not respect, from staying in environments that weakened your character, from continuing habits that felt normal but were slowly hollowing you out. Not everything you loved was good for you, and not everything that left was meant to stay. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that Allah tests a servant until he purifies them of sin, as reported in Sahih Muslim. Loss is one of the sharpest forms of purification. It removes what you cannot let go of willingly. Ask yourself something uncomfortable. If Allah replaced what you lost tomorrow, would you be ready for it? Or would you repeat the same attachment, the same dependency, the same mistake? Replacement requires readiness, and readiness requires detachment. This does not mean loss will stop hurting. It means pain will no longer control direction. In the next episode, we confront something even harder: why Allah sometimes delays replacement long enough that you are forced to rebuild your life without it, and how that period quietly defines who you become. Do not leave the series here. This is where most people misunderstand Allah completely.